Part of the blame probably must go to the scientists themselves. I'm one of them. Why do they hide in the ivory tower, behind their hard-to-understand publications and scientific meetings, instead of getting the message across to the public in easily understandable language, while not distorting the facts? Believe me, it's not the arrogance of the adepts. It's mostly a lack of time, and often the frustration that things have gotten too complicated to be explained in simple terms, which isn't easy. Einstein once said, "Make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler." It was on one of those days that the seed for this book project was planted in my mind. This book is targeted at interested people who have no special training in the field, but who would like to see through the mist of this complex area, without having to whack through the thick jungle of scientific jargon. And I promise you won't find any chemical equations or molecular structures. It is not a comprehensive reference book. There are many outstanding textbooks on toxicology on the market. Instead, it illuminates just a couple of key aspects that I think will help better understand the complex interactions between chemicals and humans. Finally, I hope this book can convey some of the fascination that's inherent in studying science, and I would like to share with the listener some of the passion I feel while further exploring the field of toxicology. 1. Introduction. Have you ever watched the news or read a newspaper article and wondered why we are still alive? Sinister reports about a new or a notorious bad chemical found in the food we love most, or a poisonous compound detected in the air or water, have been galvanizing us for years. Here we go again, another pesticide lurking on the surface of your breakfast berries. A nasty, cancer-causing chemical mysteriously showing up in the lake where you regularly take a swim. Blood-clotting nanoparticles in your white toothpaste. Or worse even, the pills you have been swallowing for years turn out to be highly dangerous for your health, killing people. Seriously? You are now immediately convinced the faint headache you've been experiencing lately must be a harbinger of a stroke, due to the painkiller you ingested last week. And what you thought was merely slight indigestion probably is a liver tumor caused by an apple that you forgot to peel. You panic. The world is crazy. After all these ominous reports, what the heck can you eat nowadays without getting sick? Is there still anything at all to be considered safe? Eventually, you decide to skip meals, refrain from breathing the ambient air, and not touch anything on this planet. Problem is, by avoiding being exposed to all these allegedly bad chemicals, you won't survive. Guaranteed. If this sounds sardonic, it is not my intention. As a toxicologist, I'm certainly not trivializing the potential danger of certain chemicals. Quite the opposite. All I want to do with this book is to make the listener aware of the difference between a real risk or potential danger imposed by toxicants and those irrational, apocalyptic scenarios, which more than often are nothing else than sensationalism, partly due to a poor understanding of the principles of how a chemical interacts with our body. Make no mistake, there are highly toxic chemicals in our environment, food, air, and water, which can, potentially, be harmful, even fatal. It is the toxicologist's task to call attention to those risks. The good news, however, is that not everything that bears the hastily added label toxic will invariably be dangerous to our health. Toxicity is a relative term, and the key question is, how much of it is too much? If somebody asked me what I consider the single most important take-home message for the listener, who was patient enough to listen to this entire book, I would answer without hesitation that it is the awareness that the science of toxicology is a quantitative discipline. Let's go back a few centuries, when a doctor of the Renaissance who called himself Paracelsus came up with a simple but brilliant idea that in most parts is still valid today. It is the dose that makes the poison. More accurately, the net exposure to a chemical determines its toxicity. Much more on this. Keep going. However, we must examine this concept more closely. It is not so simple that we can just say, the more of something, the worse for us.